2025 is absolutely the year that I am getting fully involved in fantasy books. Welcome back to another video. My name's Sean. This video is going to be all about fantasy. This is for the fantasy girlies. Like, drop me some comments with some recommendations of your favourite fantasy books, please. Fantasy has never really been my thing. I've read a few fantasy books growing up, but I mainly kind of stuck to vampires, werewolves, those kind of genres within fantasy. Very basic. Towards the end of last year, I started branching out a little bit more, and I fear I will never look back. I have always been just a romance girly at heart, but clearly I did not know what I was missing. I'm going to go through some of the fantasy books that I've read recently that I've really loved, and I'm also going to go through some of the fantasy books that I've got on my TBR that I'm really excited to read. The Shatter Me series. I read all 6 books in 8 days. That's how feral I was for this series. It's a dystopian world. People have magical powers, like they're trying to rebel against the re-establishment and take back the power of the people kind of thing. Absolutely here for it. And Aaron Warner, we pretend he's not 19 and that he's not blonde. This man, was I giggling and kicking my feet like a little girl? Yes, I was. Ignite Me was my favourite in the series, but I went so feral for these books. Like, I just absolutely inhaled them, couldn't put them down, was obsessed, still am obsessed, still regularly make content talking about this series. I think I will love this series forever. The Once Upon a Broken Heart series. Now, this is written in third person, which did put me off a little bit, but the story is so worth it. This book started off a bit slow. Some of the world building, I think that's one thing that's always put me off about fantasy, is that the world building sometimes is difficult to get your head around and sometimes can be a little bit boring. And I did feel like that with this book. However, once I got halfway through, I was fully invested. I powered through the rest of the series. I had to know what happened. Book 2 ends on a cliffhanger and I was unwell. So this basically follows a girl who is at the heart of a prophecy, and all she's ever wanted is to find true love, and there's people in the world who aren't human, they're fates, and they want to use her to fulfill this prophecy. She's kind of going on this quest to help them fulfill the prophecy whilst also trying to find true love in her own life. It's so good. The Powerless series by Lauren Roberts. I wasn't expecting to love this as much as I did. It really took me by surprise. This is giving Hunger Games vibes, where a select few get put into this arena and they kind of have to fight to the death, but everybody there has powers, and if you don't have powers you get killed. And Payton, the main character, doesn't have powers, so she's an ordinary pretending to be an elite, and if she gets discovered she'll be killed, and she kind of gets involved in a enemies to lovers thing with the prince. So good. Book 3 is coming out in April, I think. I can't wait. It wouldn't be a fantasy list without Fourth Wing. I think I have quite an unhealthy obsession with Xaden Ryerson at this point. This man has made it to the top of my book boyfriend list, and I'm not even mad about it. I'm obsessed with him. I am actually, like, hand on heart, I will openly admit that I'm obsessed with him. This is words on paper. I don't know how it has such a visceral effect on me, but here we are. This is kind of giving Game of Thrones meets Divergent, so people get put into different factions and they have to stay wherever they choose. And then Violet was always supposed to be a scribe. She gets forced into the Riders Quadrant, where she has to do a series of life-threatening trials, fight against her like classmates, and then bond with a dragon. Listen, this is just insane. This series made it to my god tier list of books. That's how good they are. I didn't even give them 5 stars. I knocked stars off for the world building element, and sometimes I find things a tiny bit confusing. I think that's my brain though. I don't think it's definitely not the writing, but they still made it to the god tier list because I'm obsessed. I can't stop thinking about it. Make it make sense. The Belladonna series, wasn't prepared for this. Also written in third person. It does get on my nerves, but the story was so good. This is basically a girl who was supposed to die as a baby and she didn't, and she's always been able to see death, like the person, like the entity, ever since. And she's found that like she can't die basically, so if she's on the brink of death himself will appear to her, and he's always kind of looked out for her. She's blamed him because everyone around her seems to die, but it's not his fault, it's just their time. She doesn't get her inheritance until she's 20. She moves in with some distant relatives and she's worried that death will take them from her. There is something stalking one of the house members and she wants to try and stop it so that she gets to stay there, and her and Death kind of work together to figure out who's trying to kill this girl, and may or may not get in a little relationship with Death that I was not mad about. Daddy Death was given. Quicksilver by Callie Hart. This was 5 stars for me. I only read this last month, but I'm still so obsessed with it. This is about a human who has always been able to sense this metal called Quicksilver, but she doesn't know what it is. She just knows that she can sense metal in like knives and things like that. Her queen tries to kill her, and when she's in the palace, she pulls this sword out and it awakens this pool of Quicksilver. This guy comes through. She's literally on the brink of death, and he takes her through the pool and into the Fey realm. When the king realizes that she's the one who kind of awakened the Quicksilver, he's like, you're going to stay here. You're going to awaken all of the Quicksilver in the land so that basically things can run as they should be. Just doesn't let her go home, and she gets entwined in this whole war that's going on that's not really her problem, but they make it her problem. The guy who pulled her through the pool, Kingfisher, I have no words. I actually have no words. I was feral for their story. You just need to read it. Like, trust me. Take my word for it. You need to read this book. I actually don't know how I'm going to wait till November for Brimstone. I don't know. I want it now. Metal Slinger was another one I read recently. I actually read this as a tandem read with one of my friends. So we were texting each other about it. It was really nice to do, actually. This is about a girl who travels with her people to another land. They're allowed to go to this market once a year to buy things they need to sustain them, basically. But they're not allowed to live on this land, and she gets accused of stealing while they're there. She didn't steal, but then she ends up stealing one of their knives, and they travel back on their ship, and then the guy she stole the knife from comes after her, turns up back at their home, gets locked away in this tower, and she's kind of drawn to him, so she goes to like speak to him, ends up helping him escape, and they then travel back to his lands, where it turns out he's the prince, and their stories are actually intertwined, so he didn't really go there to get the knife, he went there for her. I was really enjoying this story. It gets to the end, you realise we're dealing with an unreliable narrator, so I wasn't quite prepared for the twist at the end. I would quite like book 2 soon, please. Some fantasy books that I have on my TBR. Just gonna get the trusty TBR up because there's far too many books to keep track. Phantasma. I really, really want to read Phantasma. I've heard great things about it. Phantasma is like this contest that people have to enter, and I don't know if they fight to the death or what, but I think the FMC enters to find her sister who's gone missing or something. I'm very intrigued. Like, from reviews that I've heard, it's worth a read, so I really, really want to read that. The City of Gods and Monsters. I've heard very, very, very good things about Darien Castle. I believe he's meant to be like a top tier book boyfriend, so I'm always looking to get on board with that. It's vampires, werewolves, witches, all kind of supernatural creatures, yes. So I think somebody tries to abduct her and they take her friend instead, so she's like on a quest to get her friend back. The drama of it, I love it. I also really want to read Heavenly Bodies. Yeah, this literally sounds so good. In a world where no entities exist but the stars, Alara has been cursed by fate. A prophecy promises she will fall for a star and it will kill them both. Say less. The Plated Prisoner series is on my list. I already have the first 3 books on my shelf, I just haven't read them yet, so it starts off with Guild. I believe this is a King Midas retelling. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know much else about it, other than it's meant to be good. It has actually been on my TBR for a while, so obviously I have read the blurb, but it's been so long that I can't actually remember, other than it's a King Midas kind of retelling. But that sounds good to me, like King Midas, everything I touch turns to gold. Hell yeah. I feel like it's gonna give forbidden romance vibes. I don't know why, could be wrong. If you read it, let me know what you thought. I've also just bought the Gods and Monsters series, which starts off with the Book of Azrael. I'm getting to this. I think I'm going to read this actually after my current read because I'm really excited for this. From what I understand, it's the girl who is the morally grey one. I love that. I'm all for women's rights. Absolutely. Women in male fields. Yeah, it's meant to be so good. I just know I'm going to go crazy for it. I can already tell. I also have Lightlark and Nightbane. I haven't got Skyshade yet, but I need to read them. I wanted to read them the end of last year and I just didn't get around to it. I'm very much a mood reader. I know I will definitely get to it this year, but that is on the list that I'm really excited for. I know it's like enemies to lovers, isn't it? And is it enemies to lovers back to enemies? I think I may have heard that. If I'm making that up, then don't come for me, but I'm sure that's what I've heard. I am really excited to read that though. And then because I loved the Shatter Me series so much, and I hadn't read anything else by Tara Maffei. I've recently bought the This Woven Kingdom series. I'm not sure if the series has a name itself, but I'm so excited to read this because I saw a girl on TikTok who, she made a video talking about it saying that it's better than Châtenay, and I thought, there's no way. There is absolutely no way it's better, but she didn't seem like she was lying. She looked like she was thoroughly enjoying herself, so yeah, I'm gonna read that soon, definitely. I don't know if you can hear, but my dog is snoring. Okay, there we go. That was a quick run through of some of the fantasy books that I've read that I've loved and some of the ones that I really want to read. So yeah, please drop me a comment if you've got any good recommendations, because I fully feel like I'm in my fantasy era this year. Like, it's just a feeling, do you know what I mean? I just want to read it. I want to discover more universes. That's what I love about reading. The ability to experience all these different universes within your own mundane little life. I love that for me. If you like this video, please hit subscribe. I do post videos every single week. Thank you so much for watching.